This is Weird Renegade Witches blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done. Of course, go to the Weird Renegade website. See the phone number there. Of course, hit me up in reference to 101 lessons, in addition to monthly lessons and also work. And understand the monthly lessons. Hit me up in reference to those. That should be starting again next week, but sometimes I get people who are asking, hey, can we start it now? And I'll work with you. However, understand that's different from energies that I do with individuals that I work very closely in reference to their life goals, work, and so on. And understand work is not incorporated, but corporated if necessary, meaning it is a separate energy, a separate feed from the 101 lessons, working closely with individuals and so on. And it can be a very much broad perspective because understand everything is work. But as you already know, I am offering abortion spiritual work, or as we call spiritual counseling, and focusing on some frequencies. I recently seen something, I think is what is it called, that underbelly, and with some young ladies, they were prostitutes and they've had many abortions. And I think I'm just kind of paraphrasing, and one of the young ladies said, them babies are long gone. And for her to even say that, and it was a very strong energy when she said that, I said, they not long gone, honey, they around you. And those are the energies that we need to kind of tap into and see what that is. Honey, them babies are going with you when you out there fucking and sucking. It's a really interesting frequency, but people don't think about it and they don't want to go backwards in time to understand the attachment and how even within your body those tissues are still there. And a lot of this is just above people pay grade, and the shockment and the shock of the body and what happens within the frequency, and the soul stealing when something is pulling. Or now they have pills, and they back then they had seaweed to put, what is it, in the cervix or whatever. Now they're giving you pills. Like I told you, I was listening to this lady. She went and took some kind of pills, and the what is it, the embryo fell out of her vagina. She was in the bathroom. It's just shit like that, and the cramping and the pain. And you telling me that's forgettable? Okay, but let's think about it even more of the person that you had the abortion from, whoever the father is. What happened with that energy? Where did that go? So it's just, at different frequencies of understanding the culture, right? But and also, that I'm doing spiritual deprogramming, and understand spiritual deprogramming is more than just cult like behavior. It's relationships, it's school, it's jobs, it's friends, shit, it's this administration, it's the political frequencies, it's all the energies around us, right? Because we're kind of stuck right now in some kind of cult, and we not even realize we're enforced in it, right? So that's where that is. But you already know that art is occultism. Occultism is a motherfucking art. And Wayward is about that revenge, redemption, and responsibility, right? However, on this 4th of July day, right, we are Negroes, and we're not going to celebrate no fucking, I'm going to say it just like no Peckerwood 4th of July. Leave it for them fucking rednecks, right? And was very interesting, in my comments, somebody focused on my loud ass gray kitty and acting like she was in turmoil. Right? You focused on that real good. Believe me, that gray kitty is never in no turmoil. She just spoiled. Okay? I even had somebody focus on somebody else, I guess, complimenting. And I'm going to get to something, because I'm saying focus and distraction, because you guys so focused on fake shit, but you not focused on the real shit, right? People who read comments just to find a frequency is very interesting. So this person at My Melanin Empress 34695 gave a compliment. And what this person said, love this Donna Summer inspired look. You eat every look you serve. Then you had somebody come back and respond to that energy and at Amana underscore Mosley 2000. And the response that she had towards that other person's comment was, no, she don't. So I said, oh, her focus is wrong. Her focus is wrong, right? I said, oh, okay. And another thing, this is called a sleeper cell. This is a bitch right here that you don't want as a friend, because your ass could be stunting on a bitch and she's behind closed doors talking about this bitch thinks she look good. No, she don't. And even this shit, it sound like a man to me. I don't know. I'm not trying to read into it. I'm just looking at the frequencies of the behavior. And these people in the universal soul are so dangerous because there's crimes of humanity that's fucking happening and nobody is focused, right? So let's look at some frequencies here because I have questions. I advocate for people. That's part of even my work. I advocate, I show up, I talk, I do what I do, right? I sit in on stuff because people out here need help. And that was my frame to be a person who advocate for people, right? And I'm looking at a lot of the world and I said, dang, under the Jubilee, they are, okay, under the Jubilee, there's a lot of energy that they're pushing. And I'm serious about the Jubilee because the Jubilee is a whole ritual. And people think the Jubilee is a joke and they're using a lot of Masonic constitution to push an agenda, more than just a federal constitution, but Masonic constitution. And the bottom line is that even if they're using the Masonic constitution or what is it, the Scottish Rites constitution, like they have one on citizenship, which is a very interesting read. Okay. They have one about banks and is really talking about the Jews and how the money should flow. So there's certain bylaws of the United States under the Scottish Rites that is happening, but people in the universal soul are using abuse of power, and you're having third world energies coming in using our own history against us. And there's many things under this 4th of July that I have questions about because there's crimes against humanity, there's tyranny, there's a whole lot of shit popping off, and I'm a little confused on how you could focus on somebody commenting on my hair, this fake ass shit here, or focus on my cat meowing when there's literally crimes against humanity is happening and they're creating concentration camps. They tricked you with FEMA and then have a whole alligator cage, which is a concentration camp in the Holocaust. And you telling me that's not a crime, that's not inhumane? And talk about the alligators. They are repeating history. It's like, what are we focused on here, right? So let's just kind of go down because at this point we're under the energies of rituals versus oath, which is under the Jubilee, right? So let's just kind of go down the line, with some frequencies. Because under the Jubilee, there's been a whole lot of deaths. And they are really focused in the month of July, right? And you guys don't understand that the month of July and they're doing rituals of 7 by 7 by 7 by 7 7 49. They're using the number 7. They're pulling in we're going to be a little layman. The Cancer energy has replaced the Scorpio. So the Scorpio and Pisces is taking a rest because they need to use the gatekeeper to work in between the Aries and the Capricorn. We just talk in layman, because you have to understand the universal soul is built on top of astrology and Zodiac. Okay, so right now they have used the Cancer and using the Cancerians as villains and sleeper cells, right? So it will appear one way, but it's not. So look at how they're moving the Scorpio, and they have, as what they call, they flipped the chart. They have moved the first house into the third house and the third house into the first house. So then you're wondering why there is confusion. There is a shifting. There are portals opening, and they moved them at the top. So you don't know if we're working with the Sag first, or we're working with the Scorpio first, or are we working with, of course, the Libra first. And then that's why your pockets are funny. Because there's a certain pecking order, but they switched the pecking order. Okay? This is just energies and frequencies. I'm talking layman. I'm not saying what it is. I'm talking to you so you can understand where I'm coming from. This is an energy-based environment. I had a dumb fuck that was in the comments trying to be a smart ass, talking about, can somebody explain to me what the energy harvesting is? Can somebody explain to me in the comments? Nobody can explain to you in the comments because they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. See, that's your fucking problems. Y'all sit up there and read all that Google Doc or AI shit and look at that shit on YouTube and think somebody going to explain some shit. You don't know what the fuck I mean and where I'm coming from and the practice of it. I understand everybody else talk about it, but don't get in my comments trying to be an asshole dick. I know you can't help that. Jealous bitch. Anyway, this energy is something to look at, okay? Especially understanding, again, the Zodiac. However, the 4th of July is really spell work. And Black people used to celebrate it and understand the energies and the frequencies behind it. Okay? And if Black people kind of get back to them old selves and get out the consciousness, I think it'll work. Because you celebrating as what they supposedly call independence. You're not enslaved anymore, right? Or a certain thought process. It's more than that. But it's always work behind it. Because we need to really look at this supposed day, right? But let's go down the line, kind of some energies that I'm peeping. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? You have the Essence Festival going on, right? As we talk about inhumane. The main focus is the fact that the Essence Festival has taken money away from Louisiana, especially New Orleans. They've taken money away from contractors, designers, people who cook, business owners, all. They've brought in who they wanted to bring in to make money. They're not using, of course, the locals, all of that. And Essence is also have a third world energy connected to it now. And Essence is not connected to Black people anymore. It is a ghetto mess. And I heard that the tickets are not selling like they used to. It doesn't have the class and energies as it used to. There's an energy of the rumor mill going on. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it's that energy with Master P and Mia X. And I said, I said, so because I understand that Mia X had cancer at one time. I said, so they tried to mini Rippleton her. So, but you know, the spirits overrid all of that shit, right? And they're tripping that I believe it's a Capricorn fighting with a Taurus, which Master P is a Taurus. I always thought Master P was a Pisces. Very interesting, okay? So I'm wondering, did they move him up? Um, he was either moved up or moved down, maybe, I don't know. So they're going back and forth, right? But it's not so much of the back and forth and the energies behind it. It is what is being said on the streets from allegedly Mia X stating stuff on them streets and urban voodoo. And the more and more that I'm listening, I said, there's some kind of truth to this shit, right? And I was telling a spiritual constituents, I said, I've always thought that Master P was behind that energy of his brother being in jail. I'm going to say allegedly. I've always thought that that story of the young man who's at 16 degree, allegedly dying, there is something weird going on. It's such a rumor mill, right? So as we're talking about Master P, I said, okay, so he tried to mini Rippleton Mia X. Different type of different rappers have died, and then they were talking about that Mia X had mentioned was it Soldier Slim, and the person kept calling him Magnolia Slim. And then I said, oh, okay. And then saying that Master P was behind that, saying Master P is behind the energies of his brother not getting out of jail. And I was trying to say, well, you know what? Second degree murder has a life sentence. And the person said, well, Birdman brother is out and that nigga done killed 10 people. I said, allegedly. I said, oh, got you. And then what really was very interesting, they mentioned that allegedly Master P don't put money on C Murder's books. And they were talking about Snoop Dogg, was it Silk the Shocker? There was alluding to Bootsy. There was alluding to Kim Kardashian. There was alluding to Monica, and probably more. And the interesting thing is that what the New Orleans or the streets are saying that Monica and Kim Kardashian actually was close to getting him out until there is someone intervene, right? And this is what I'm talking about with rituals and mayhem. This is what I'm talking about, where you could be an innocent person, but when they want to take your ass out and put you under ritual, this is what happens. They were talking about his daughter dying, how allegedly he's behind that. They was talking about the drug shit with his wife or something. They said he's behind that. I said, well, I wouldn't consider that as spiritual work. I consider that as practical ritual, because it is done by hand. It's not done within the spirit. Now, they didn't probably started this shit off in practical measures and tried to use spirit behind it. But anytime that you keep, stepping in place of your brother getting out of prison, and you know fucking well he didn't kill that person. And then, of course, we got to look at the number system. As I said, 16 degrees. See, they over here playing, Scottish rites, Masonic games with your asses, and y'all not peeping because you too busy worried about what the fuck is going on with my hair and a cat and shit like that, right? So we are constantly under these rituals, and I said, well, damn. And then furthermore, they're sick and tired of the corporate entities involved, of course, with the essence frequency, right? But the other ritual that happened in front of our face that I have questions about is Beyonce. Remember I told you that here in California, in Orange County, they having a candlelight concert, a tribute to Beyonce on 7/11. And I'm trying to tell you something is suspicious. I told you in my last video that I was suspicious that either she's dead or they're trying to kill her. Because I have questions. I said that. The next thing you know, this shit happens. And when they used the frequencies of 711, I was real suspicious because under the Jubilee, they're using the as you guys call it, the Cancerian energy to cause murder, okay? And accidents and stuff like that. Now, some of you June cancers, you know, like I said, I kid with the honorary, but even the June cancers are more dangerous, even more, because you have that energy that flips you and pushes you up into a different frequency. So that's even more mayhem. So we have what we call a double Cancer effect, and this is above your pay grade. This is a double Cancer effect. You have your June cancers, which is a frequency. You have your July cancers, which is a frequency. And then let's flip it, and then you got a third energy of the Cancer effect, which is, of course, that pulls in the Leo. So we have a 333 effect, but we have a 7 by 7 by 7 effect. This is above your pay grade because you can't Google this shit, right? So when we're talking and looking at this energy with this Virgo, the Virgo is the wild card. And you have to understand the Virgo can sit at the table with 1 and 2. So therefore, if they're over here trying to fuck around with the Virgos next to the Cancer, that's an energy because they are doing that, right? So when we seen this energy with this Beyonce, this cold ritual in front of our face as we are here on, as what we call the 4th of July. So she had her concert in Houston, and there was, I consider it a stage setting malfunction, and the car, I guess whatever was holding it, the wires, I don't get it. I'm like, what happened, right? And what they're showing us on the video, on the social media, is not what really happened. And she will appear as calm, but to be honest with you, was that even her? Because they have basically replaced this person that they call Beyonce 20,000 different times. And I was looking at it, I said, is that a mannequin? You know, I don't know. However, you kind of hear the people, you know, oh, Beyonce, da 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 da. And she will appear as calm, but other people who witnessed it said, no, she was saying some shit and saying, don't kill me. It's a whole energy, allegedly. And that was, of course, being said. So I said, okay, we got a red vehicle, which is the blood. And then we have, of course, the American flag frequency, which was all sideways and crooked and which way is up. And then, so that's very symbolic. But what was also very interesting to me, I said, oh, this is a death ritual. So is she alive or not alive? What the fuck is happening? And then I started going to the left and right. I said, oh, is she going to die in air or is she going to die on earth? Because it sounds like she's going to die in air. You know, I mean, I'm going to speak, we're going to say allegedly, but we're just having a conversation because I'm crazy and I'm a conspiracy theorist. So anyway, they're saying something, right? They have her flying in the air. Then she had a malfunction in the air. So I said, that's why I'm like, is it going to be an airplane? Is it going to be in a car? Which one? How they're going to get her up out of here, right? Allegedly. So then I started thinking about Aaliyah. And I started to do a compare and contrast because something came up on my feed with Rock the Boat and Survivor. And I said, this is very interesting. And they were just trying to show the codes of in between the two. And I said, well, how about there was not ever Aaliyah on that airplane? We just talking, we just giggling, right? So how about that was never Aaliyah on the airplane? That was Beyonce on the airplane. And it crashed. And Aaliyah became Beyonce. This is above your pay grade. And all along, while you guys burning candles in Aaliyah, which was always weird to me because I was like, well, she cool and everything, but she's not an icon like that. But it's it's a frequency. I'm just keeping it real because you're not. And so I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I said, how about if it's a gag? The gag is that it's been Aaliyah all along in costume. That's why you get these 20,000 different energies. And then the interesting thing is after she died, she died in 2000, 2001, then you had Destiny Child coming out with all this music and shit, all this house music. Because then I go back, I'm like, hey, how come we never peeped at Destiny Child music in addition to all of Beyonce's music is all ballroom music. It was always targeted to men. The tone, the movement, it was never targeted to women. And how did we just now catch this, right? So then when you go back and you listen to a lot of Destiny Child's music, you hear Aaliyah's vocals. Okay? You're not tripping? And all the music, even when Beyonce goes out on her own, in some of the music you can hear the undertones of Aaliyah's voice. But for sure Destiny Child. Okay? So I said, damn, just wonder, and all along we stupid as fuck and we thought that was her. But it's not her. Just like the illusion of that little boy, what's his name, Sir or whatever, and all of a sudden he pops up. And I said, that's not that boy, and that's a feminine boy. Because we all know that boy has cerebral palsy and sickly. Allegedly. They just, putting things in our face and trying to play a lot of games. But we should understand the 7-Eleven when it comes up to that Beyonce and what's really going on. And like I said, they just showed us in front of our face a death ritual. So we need to stop playing with these people, right? Because over here, when you go back to the song, Crazy in Love that came out in 2003. Don't you guys remember when she got in the car and the car blew up? Which that's a form of necromancy, right? So, we just got to understand some things. We just have questions. Because again, they're showing us a death ritual. Okay, they're playing in our faces. The other energy where they're also playing in our faces is the fact what they call it hidden in plain sight. Remy Ma. Okay, so they then sat up and gave us a Norman Bates ritual. So as you guys know, allegedly, Remy Ma's son is caught up in a murder case, and he has a co-defendant that may also be doing life in another case. What is very interesting, all of a sudden now, they have video surveillance of him shooting this person. But this happened, we're in 2021 or 2022, and you're just now coming. So they've been and knew that it was something up with this frequency, right? I said, well, I don't know what it is, what it ain't. However, the main thing that I looked at is that the fact that Remy Ma went to court, I'm assuming to support her son, which would make sense. And they had her under ritual because once she went by herself, there was some plus size, look like Latina woman with bleached blonde hair, pinstripe, black and white. She's arguing with this person. We don't know what the fuck is going on because that's not like a normal energy of a person coming at a person's mother talking shit. And then Remy Ma was acting very weird, like she had bipolar and she didn't know what the fuck was going on, like she was going crazy. So we understand that she's not under oath, she's under ritual. I also said on the simple fact that they're trying to still test her pimping with star power. Because what people don't understand that Remy Ma was never a star, she was a filler. And I was arguing with a person who's a spiritual constituent who's into battle rap and knows all of the frequencies of battle rap, and I don't know shit about battle rap. And I was talking to him saying, but it's more than battle rapping, because I guess she became kind of the lead person. They said on top of Babs, and I remember Babs was, I think, on Making the Band. So anyway, I'm just talking the way he talking. So just, correct me if anything, if you know about battle rapping. So we were talking, and he was explaining to me that they put a person in place who's a Scorpio who basically fucked up the whole game for her. And I said, but she didn't choose him. They chose that person for him. I said, they put her in place because there was something going on in battle rapping, that they was making too much money, doing too much freedom, we'll say. I said, because in that case, they could have put Little Kim, Little Mama, anybody on top of that. They would have did better than, of course, Remy Ma. I said, Remy Ma just don't have it. And then he was saying how in the Bronx that Remy Ma won the battle rap. I said, no, they let her win. She can't rap. And, she doesn't have that frequency. I said, there's another undertone to what is going on here. And she's a Gemini. I said, trust and believe. Geminis just don't get themselves in shit unless it's about making some money or some kind of undertones with money. Now, the bottom line is that they didn't force her to, marry Papoose and have this baby by Papoose, because she didn't want Papoose. And the thing is that you got to be careful, because that's the evil twin, that Pisces. And then you see he's with that Clarissa chick. Isn't she a Pisces? So that's double Pisces. So that's a double evil. So therefore, they went and attached that double evil, the darker part, to that Gemini. And I told you guys, I said, Geminis will walk away. She's bored in that shit. She don't want to be with him. But they enforced it. That was part of her probably energies getting out of jail. So of course they made him the good man and black love, but it was all a game all along. And some people believe that there might be some kind of reality show. However, the behaviors of Remy Ma was off-putting, like as if she had bipolar, and they had her under ritual. They had her, being humiliated and so on. Even the death frequency of her son allegedly murdering someone is a ritual. However, they had her in that little house on a prairie dress. I said, what the fuck? No makeup, looking crazy, like she got out the bed and she going back and forth with this shadow person. And it's just all crazy, right? Because then that shadow person got in a car, talking shit. And I was like trying to humble her. And I said, that's on bullshit. I said, this is all an act. It's not even real. It's a public stunt, because these people need social media, public relations. We used to have public relations, but these people need social media public relations, because they need to build their image, and they're doing anything necessary to recreate the image. And black people are going overboard with this because they don't have a social media public relations anymore, right? So when I'm looking at this subject, they're trying to put her in place and under this humiliation ritual. But then they're giving all the codes that is a fucking ritual. Her mental state, her going off, this person yelling at her, trying to prove her star power, which she's not a star. They're testing her pimping. She goes running down them stairs. She got on some fucking black and white dunks. I said, oh, this is a straight ritual. She cutting up. And I said, I said, Remy Ma is pretty cool. She don't feed into, from what I've seen, into shit in front of people. Okay. It's like behind closed doors. So I said, them black and white dunks did it for me. I said, this is nothing but a public stunt. So, that was an energy right there. This whole energy is a public stunt. And the bottom line is that, to be honest with you, Remy's son might have been in jail. He might have been in jail. This is just bullshit. And they're using this as a ritual. Something is crazy, and they are messing with our energies with it. And what is very interesting with these people, as they call industry people, I was listening to this person. He's a Gemini, and he be having some good information, because I'm nosy as fuck and I want to hear what he's talking about, right? But then it was very interesting. They were asking him questions in reference to clones, and he answered in Gemini form with aggression and start going off. I said they're clones, and so he was saying something very interesting, and I've also heard it from my spiritual constituents of people in the industry, because I knew about Eazy-E being the dope man and bringing crack and shit in the industry, but I'm learning more and more that these people that you see in front of our faces that are supposed to be entertainers, stars, and famous people, a lot of them for real were committing crimes, and serving people, right? So the person brought up Sherelle. Now, Sherelle was friends with Whitney Houston, and stuff like that. And they were talking about how Sherelle was a dope girl. She was in the industry, the dope girl. I said, oh. I said, was she supplying Alexander O'Neal? And then they was talking about how Alexander O'Neal wife is his handler. I said, oh, so that makes a lot of sense to Charlie Wilson from the Gap Band, that Mexican he's with, that's his handler. Okay. So he started talking about Sherelle being against that dope girl, right? But then I had somebody else was bringing up allegedly Linnell, her energy in the world of the industry and what she was doing. And I'm not about to get into it with you Oakland people, but I'm just talking. We have to understand things in front of us and how they're playing games. However, what really blew me away is Cameo. Now, what is very interesting, I have a habit of seeing shit and be like, no, right? And Cameo, the group Cameo, have always been interesting to me because they remind me of Castro Street. And I just kind of connected it like, oh, okay, they own some other shit, but okay, whatever. And so anyway, now I'm like, that song Candy, is that talking about drugs? You know me. I said, damn, they be throwing Spellwork in front of us and air and fire magic. But the thing that I never focused on was that song She's Strange. And I had no clue it was talking about drag queens and transsexuals. I said, bitch. So I had to go back and read the lyrics. I said, that's a cold game, a cold piece of spell work. Okay? And I'm like, they've been fucking with women's pimping for so long, these fucking warlocks. They just been wanting to be us. And in your millennial terms, to keep it layman, what you guys call it, destiny swapping, I call it soul mounting. So in your special words, that's what that is. These motherfuckers been out here playing games. Okay, they've been stealing our life, our life force as women. They've been deflating us for so long, for decades and centuries. They want the umbilical cord. They want the fallopian tube. They want the uterus. They want it. What in the demonic bitch ass shit is this? Okay. So anyway, I looked at it, I said, and do you understand? Art imitates life. Music is a frequency in words. Do you know how many clubs this song was playing in? Do you know you had it playing in your car? And you niggas are wondering why you sucking dick and bending over? Like in trance? There were hella songs. What's the song? The Wild Side. All that is hella songs and music, black and white, that talks about trans and being with trans. The industry. That's why I talked about Egypt. I'm to the point that I don't even believe the whatever before Christ, after Christ. I don't believe that Egypt would ever had any fucking women. I believe them motherfuckers were all eunuchs. Because when you read, notice they never had children. When you even go back to Exodus and you read Moses, and remember the queen or whatever of Egypt, whatever, she didn't have children. Notice these people don't have children. But then you're wondering, well, how did they exist? I said these were all men. I never said that nobody didn't birth them in the world. I believe they created a whole empire of men and boys. At first, I thought that they, transformed women into men. No, I think all them motherfuckers were men. They had eunuchs. They had soft boys. They had a whole lot of medical shit going on. That's why I gave you another scenario to Adam and Eve and God. Because remember I said Lord is woman. And Lord gave God a job. But instead of God handling his business, his job, he decided, I'm just going to do abuse of power, and I'm going to switch all this shit up. Right? This is above your pay grade. Oh, my cat is meowing. It's in turmoil. So anyway, when I'm looking at all this, I said, damn, this shit has been in our face. Then the person talked about for sure, and I told you this, that Big Frida was put in place to change the scope of Christianity and church and music. The thing that really was interesting to me, but I don't follow them too much. I don't follow Ari Lennox and October, what's his name? October London. Because I remember October London is supposed to be signed to death row. So I don't know what's going on there, but they were talking about them being signed and you're going to start seeing rituals with them. And then they said that, what's his name? Duran Bernard. They're saying you're going to start seeing rituals with him. The other energy that really confirmed, and I said, this nigga here. And I can tell the person that I'm going to say that's Gemini, I say he's still in industry because he talks industry. Janet Jackson, I always knew she was fragrant. I said, is she ever going to come out? Because I knew Janet Jackson was fragrant back in good times. I knew she was fragrant when she was doing the comedy skits when she was a kid. I knew she was fragrant. I knew she was fragrant on Different Strokes. I knew she was fragrant on Fame. I understood. I said, ooh, the friendship between her and Miss Elliott. The thing that really got me, and I said, that's very interesting. Because I always, in the 90s, her album, That's the Way Love Goes album and stuff like that, I said, how come this always seemed like a lesbian album? And then I always picked up lesbian sex. Especially that part when she said go deeper and deeper. I said, I don't think she's talking about. I always seen a woman's tongue. Right? Allegedly. Her energy just spells of it. And so anyway, they were pointing out, and we just talking spell work, the shit in front of us all along. They were talking about the spell work of them videos that the person said that the way they're worded was like, all those were dykes in the video. You seen MC Light? I said, oh, damn. Then we tripping on what's happening today. Got you. And the person brought up Zendaya, saying she's a big one. And they dress her in feminine clothing because that's part of her ritual. I had another spiritual constituent said that was the same thing with Queen Latifah. They enforced her to dress feminine and she didn't want to, but it's a ritual. I'm just like, how do these people, want to be all up in this ritualistic shit? God damn. Like, that's some mental frequencies, right? But you want to know what's also very interesting? Was it around maybe 2018, maybe 2018, maybe 2017? Okay, so, and you could look it up because I think I'm might be off, but I might be 2017, 2018. Just look it up. In San Francisco, we had Mayor Lee. Mayor Lee was an interesting specimen, and it was a lot of shit going on, right? So Mayor Lee of San Francisco, he died, and then London Breed came in, of course. However, when Mayor Lee died, other energies just started to fall. And I don't remember if Shrimp Boy went to jail before or after Mayor Lee, but let's just understand it all came around. So Mayor Lee dies, a domino effect started happening in San Francisco. Okay. Then, of course, I don't know before or after, you had Shrimp Boy. They went and, busted his whole energy and put him in jail. Then you had the California State Senate person, I think, Leland Yee. They went and arrested the fuck out of him. Then they had another energy. What's her name? Rose Pack. She died. So all of that is like Asian energy. And I've always thought, who and what brought them down? Because when they initially talked about Shrimp Boy, they went to San Francisco, Chinatown, and went to the Masonic Temple and took, record. I said, So then all of a sudden, a lot of political people started to fall. It didn't matter if you were white. It didn't matter if you were black, but it seemed like they were really at the black people. So then you just start seeing black people being removed out of their positions. They're being caught. Then, of course, they had to put London Breed under ritual and put out that she was hoeing for $5,000. Just a whole bunch of shit. And then, it's just look up San Francisco, man. Then they had this person, was he in the building inspection, Muhammad, and federal charge. It just went crazy. And I'm just like, why are they at all the black people? And then they started switching positions and then started putting Latinos or Mexicans in one position, replacing the blacks with Mexicans and Chinese. But they took out the bigger Chinese to do it. And I believe there's something that we're missing here, because after all of this went down in San Francisco, then they replaced with London Breed. Start noticing how the entertainment business and the political world start shifting in a whole other way. Then next thing you know, they came out with the pandemic. The pandemic came out and shutdown started in San Francisco when they had those fake doctors come out in smocks, okay? And they shut down the world. And people didn't know what the fuck was going on. And I remember being there at City Hall when we were like, well, what's going on? And that's how I know they were fake smocks and shit, because we've seen that shit. Then next thing you know, they gave that announcement and shut the world down. Okay? So there's some kind of energy or connection with San Francisco with kind of how things are flowing. Okay? So we have to understand, and I'm saying all of this, is they even changed the scope of Asians. Then all of a sudden, I think we were sleeping. We didn't see how they busted a lot of the underground Asian gangs and then start to reveal their tattoos. I said, what's going on here? This has always been an underground energy. I guess we fell asleep on that part, right? Especially the older underworld, And they cakewalk them, have them walking, showing their tattoos, the women too. I said, this is weird. And then next thing you know, you got 50 Cents coming out with some kind of Chinese gangster shit. Because the Chinese people pretty much always kept themselves quiet and out of the media when it comes up to the underworld. So it's very strange to incorporate them. Even what's that show called, Canaan or Canaan? I said, this is odd. Because what's very interesting, they don't expand on the Jews and their underworld. They give you little bits and pieces. You've seen it in The Sopranos. You've seen it in that show. Is it Forrester or Fox? Whatever it is. It's the other guy, the white boy from Power. It gives you a little bit of energy of them. Then it kind of goes away. But on the other show, Canaan, they kind of go into the Chinese underground world. I mean, I knew about it because San Francisco. And the Vietnamese too. Louisiana, all of that. San Francisco, all of that. Underground. That's why they talk also about the Filipino mafia shit. Especially them Cambodians. Come on now. We got to stop playing. But again, they just never been out. But I'm just noticing how it's interesting frequencies that has happened, and it seemed like things are just out of control, right? It's not controlled crimes, which leads me back into Puff Daddy. You just heard me talk about Beyonce's 7-Eleven. Well, the same thing with Puff Daddy. He's under 7-Eleven. On July 1st, on TikTok, there was some funny business going on. AI is going to be the death of the world. AI or Chat GPT, whatever you want to call it, is demonic. And it is a cyber demon. It is dishonest and deceptive. On July 1st on TikTok, they had one report after another report that Puff Daddy, I'm going to call him, got life and he was convicted. And they had whole news and the likes of news people presenting that it was live and it was being reported. They even showed the court outside the court on the streets. And they said that he has been convicted of all 5 charges. This roamed around on TikTok for hours. Different people reporting it. Not live, but they were pretending to be live. And I said, something's off about this. I was telling a spiritual constituent about it, and he was looking it up, and he was like, I don't see nothing here saying that, right? I'm like, yeah. I said, something's odd. I said, let me see what the fuck is really going on, right? So then on July 2nd, then that's when they broke down, I guess, the not guilty verdict on 3 of the 5 charges. So you have, not guilty on 3, but then guilty on 2 counts. And they have his energy under the 7 syndrome. Okay. And I said, okay, I get what's going on. Because when you do the calculations and the frequencies, it's basically 32 degrees. So that means Masonic energies is all involved, and Masonic energy is what helped them. However, in the other energies, when you do the calculations, you see the 7 pillars. And the bottom line, I mean, you see the 7 principles, but you also see the 5 pillars of Islam, which ties into this supposed up and coming southeastern judge that's on the case, that's residing over the case. And me personally, call it discriminatory. I'm about sick and tired of these sleeper cells who done paid to be in place in the universe of the United States. Every time you look, we're seeing some kind of southeast sleeper cell. We don't there's Asians, there's blacks, there's whites. Why are we Latinos? Why are we what is this overload? It's like they didn't got their money together and got that incoherent Trump up in there, incoherent like fucks. Their investments are using all this sponsored money, and we'll sit there and mind our business, and southeast. I said, this is overload. This is a sleeper cell. Right? So then you see the 5 pillars, the 7 principles and 5 pillars again of Islam, Muslim. Then of course you got the spell work over it, the 7 by 7 by 7. You got that going. Okay. And then you have the Jubilee. Okay. So we understand that he is forgiven and he is getting grace and mercy under the Jubilee. And the people who are the criminals shall be set free. So that is 7 by 7 by 49. So therefore, under the Jubilee number, he is forgiven. And then under the 32 degree, that's what's governing the frequency. However, you have to understand, in the political world and also in the finance world, the 7th month is always government. For example, that's why some of y'all may get your raises in July. The fiscal year, shit like that. July is the 7th month is very important. So within the number system. So this is why his case ended up the way that it ended up in this month. And then October. Okay. So therefore, time served. If so, it might be time served. You know, because for those charges, the 2 counts, I said, oh, so basically he's just charged for driving niggas. In so many words. And other than that, it sounds like either this nigga been in jail, because the whole case was crazy as fuck. This was nothing but this was chaotic litigation and a show me trial. Do you know how stupid we are that we were up there watching a motherfucker draw cartoon characters and believing this shit? You had people named, and somebody hit me up and was like, hey, you were right that the prosecutors were paying people to create a narrative, Jaguar, right? To create a narrative. And they pointed out a person named Tisa Tales. Then somebody else pointed me to Nick at Night, you know, Nique. So we got all these niggas reporting fake shit. You have niggas lying and talking about they was in the courtroom, which you wasn't. Your ass was sitting in the overflow like you was at church. It's the bottom line. Y'all was outside. You don't know what the fuck was going on because nothing was going on up in there. So anyway, so they have all of these symbols going on. They got the pentagram star, the Star of David, and all of this shit. All of this is surrounding this case. For him just to come out and still be a different human living in Florida. You see that he wants to go live in Florida. Okay? So we can say that they're going to build a Florida, but let's go further. So as they sat up and played games with us, I'm going to say, again, y'all should have been watching the children. The children are very important. Them kids are under ritual. Okay? Wait a minute. Let me go back to something. They showed the alleged white woman that was up in there doodling. That woman was sketching like she was deaf, like she was doing fake sign language. She's one of them people, that get in front of the energies. And remember them people be doing fake sign language? That bitch sketched like me. When I was in art school and I had to take sketching, my teacher was like, what the? And I'm like, because in that case, they could have hired me and I could have did better. At least, I don't know. But that was some cold shit. I noticed they had him under the table, hunched, like he's caged. Then they had him on his knees. That's not normal for court. That's actually inappropriate. That was cold. I said, is he trying to be an Egyptian? Is it nut? Or is he caged? Is he dead? Is he where is he? And then, that dude from Black Ink Crew, I knew and seen what was going on with him, but they've been passing around his picture on social media. He's the other brother on Black Ink Crew Chicago 4. Now, I wasn't speaking on him, but his picture's been kind of flying around on social media. And I was in discussion with someone else where they said, oh, him? Yeah. Now, that 4, did y'all see how they have his pictures roaming around social media and on YouTube and shit? How he's in a cage? And I said, I would have never thought, and I said, that's a cold ritual that they have him under. And I'm like, is that the same ritual that they had him under? Basically, they are demasculating and devaluing this energy and then had him in a yellow sweater. When in the fuck have we ever seen Puff Daddy in a yellow sweater? So we done sat up here and watched a whole hoax as trial, put people under ritual. We're finding out that Cassie was a hoe and was being pimped. We're finding out that Misa was a bottom bitch. We're finding out that Kim Porter was a bottom bitch. We're finding out that Miss Combs is a Dorinda from Truck Turner. We're finding out that may not be Puff Daddy's mama, that looked like a mask. We're finding out that blonde hair means old school pimping and pandering. We're finding out that 50 Cent was pimping and pandering. And his hoes left him because he wasn't treating them right, so they went to Puff Daddy. We're finding out that 50 Cent and Puff Daddy were just minions because there's a higher pinnacle in all of this. We're finding out that we're stupid as a motherfucker and we were under ritual. We were finding out that we were distracted as Congress was passing laws and playing in our faces underneath us. We were distracted when Trump was behind Benjamin Franklin bus. I swear that's Benjamin Franklin, honoring, I don't know if that's a Middle Eastern or Indian, make America great again. We were sleeping on him giving kudos to this African woman. I don't know, is it Angola? And she had on that fucking Bonnie Rubble wig. And I said, oh, they're trying to put black women back under ritual for us to look professional, to be whitewashed and look like white women. They're tired of, all of those lace fronts and so on. So therefore they're throwing spellwork black on black women again. They pulled this African woman who may be a cockabine, you know, because she kind of looked like a dude, but she's pretty, but she kind of looked like a dude too, but she looked like a pretty dude. But what it is, what it ain't. So therefore, they're trying to set the standards again, and they're using third world women to do it. And Trump was all up in his face because he remembered that his dick gets hard, and he's like, this is a pretty ass black woman. Yeah, and so, you know, that's just where that is. He's, you know, throwing Spellwork with that Benjamin. I swear that's a Benjamin Franklin bust with that Quaker, that colonial Quaker. It's all type of shit we missing in this universal soul. We out here, they basically distracted us and came up with this inhumane concentration camp called Alcatraz. That's a gate. And you telling me what's going on? They didn't sat up in Congress and cut people's Medicaid and shit, telling you that America is broke. Nobody ain't broke. You just sat up and stole money from American people and their health to put money in your pockets and tax breaks, you know, because y'all missed that part. And then meanwhile, they're financing amusement parks and shit and building new amusement parks. They didn't sat up and went on strike in Philadelphia so they can bring in more Indians in Philadelphia. So garbage brings more Indians. So we're going to see a sleeper cell of root. They're up there tearing down different monuments in Philadelphia, and you guys not tripping that they're erasing history there. We are not tripping in Philadelphia and it's very important to look at Philadelphia because they're focused on Philadelphia in government, that they didn't sat up and blew up a block, you know. It's hella shit. We're not tripping that in Philadelphia they're up there skinheading, you know. We have all these skinheads in fucking Philadelphia who don't want to hire black American people, okay? And there's an epidemic going on that they're giving free dope and drugs to human beings, white and black and Latino, and bringing down the people of Philadelphia, because we should understand the frequencies, what's going on. We are distracted on the simple fact that in Washington, D.C., that the real estate, because I've talked about this, the real estate agents from Virginia to Maryland to Delaware to DC are intentionally being discriminatory towards black people who are selling their properties. And how they're doing this, they are intentionally trying to make the sellers hold out and keep lowering the price that they're selling their property for, and not acknowledging the appraisal, and trying to tell black people that you may need a monthly appraisal because the market has changed. But they're not talking about how some of these agents are going into black people's homes, looking at the homes, being disrespectful towards the homes, telling their buyers, don't buy it yet, wait it out. And then intentionally lowballing black people, either giving them very, 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 offering very low energies towards their properties, or black people are selling their properties for half the price because they're trying to get it off the market. That's what's happening. And then to keep DC white, they are intentionally trying to ice out black people. Okay, so not only are black people trying to sell their properties, but they're intentionally trying not to put money in black people's pockets so the white people can get bottom dollar. As you're distracted listening to this bullshit. There's so much political shit going on. There is tyranny. There's a hostile environment. There's a cult-like behavior in the United States. There's laws being passed that don't even make sense. That's why I told you they're following a certain philosophy, but we're not tripping that they are literally bringing up history and they are doing recycled history events. Are you telling me that energy with ice is more than just busting people? That shit is slavery. They then went back chaining people up dropping them out of airplanes allegedly. These people, see, they're going to make you think it's some cartel shit. What the fuck is really going on? Killing people at the border, dropping them off at the border, prostitution, all that shit, getting them, putting them in concentration camps, humiliating them. Now, I don't believe in humiliation and being disrespectful, embarrassment, murder, mayhem. We don't know what the fuck is going on here. And I don't understand why people are not speaking up about that out. What in the world is that? And that shit ain't got shit to do with Trump. You guys were distracted and they was building that shit. What the fuck? Why are we not talking about what the fuck happened in Vegas with all of the electrical poles falling on Tropicana? Vegas have not been right since 2019 when they brought that fucking altar and changed and shifted the tone of Vegas. People seeing spirits, ghosts. I said, what in the what? Just the electrical wires? Okay. What other energies to peep? You understand that Diddy is in the Book of Kings. His son name is King. His son is under fucking ritual because they were accusing his son of shit. They have his son with a handler from the ranch. I said, why is this woman showing up to court all of a sudden? And you could clear he looks horrible. So I said, oh, he's under work. Because it looked like the Capricorn son got he looked like he's his mama's handler. And the Cancer, you would think it's the brother, but it's almost as if the Cancer sister is the handler of the two twins. It's just a whole bunch of rituals going on here. On TikTok on 7/1, when they gave out that fake verdict, they said that King, they had to escort him out. No, they had to carry him out of the court because he fell out. Everybody hollered and screamed and all that shit, and his mother put her hands on her head. What? This gonna be a whole movie. This is bigger than what it really is. This is bullshit. This goes into Erica Mena, all of that. Safari. It goes back into the Kardashians, Kris Kardashian, Nicole Simpson, the Hiltons, Paris Hilton. Faye Resnick. Ronald Goldman. It goes O.J. Simpson. It goes down. It goes into Tory Lanes. How the car, you were like, well, how is it all connects? The alleged story of Megan Thee Stallion getting shot, and you got them talking about it wasn't Megan Thee Stallion, it was Beyonce who got shot in the foot and knee. Then you wondering why she not doing well dancing. Allegedly. Chris having an interesting background. What is she, Irish and Jewish? That boyfriend she has, the white parties. Is Chloe going to be on the come up? This all rituals, right? This is above people pay grade. Ambush in Idaho. I said, is this man from Florida? Is this man from Oregon? They didn't made up a whole hoax, allegedly. One, and you see that they don't talk about it anymore, right? One man says fire to the woods. One man ambushes the fire department. Two different men in the picture of who allegedly did this. Okay. Explosion, people keep saying it's an Amazon truck in Virginia. Okay. The man who allegedly did the ambush was 20 years old, allegedly. Because you know there's a lot of energy that comes out of Oregon into Idaho. And you know Idaho and Utah are the new white spots for Hollywood, but it's the new white spots. But a lot of them are coming out of Oregon because you know Oregon have that whole skinhead Aryan energy. But we never seen a physical person. I mean, what? Okay. I'm about tired of y'all keep talking about this Titanian shit. Get out of that. Because there's some funny business going on, right? And when you heard me talk about Philadelphia and the skinhead behavior, some racist ass motherfuckers. I have a spiritual constituent. She lives there. Huh. Meanwhile, you have Trump who have a bus of Benjamin Franklin murdering, stealing, invention ass. You guys have a whole bunch of evil spirits, Quaker colonials walking around. And they get into all them white folks and people. I know there's something wrong when I'm hearing a black woman from Philadelphia, 86, or a black person from Philadelphia, 86 years old, smoking dope. An American. Not third world, but American. You have the audacity to be Muslims? Because you know that's the new sleeper cult, right? And what I get out of it, the guys are coming out of jail and so on and recruiting, and then they are recruiting the girls. young. So we have a new sleeper cell. They didn't went from Ifa, practicing all of that, now into Muslim. Recycled life. Isn't it very interesting how the Middle Easterns are in America pulling rituals like black people, getting in front of cops, talking about, yeah, pigs and all of this and all of that and all of, and having this, a woman, I'm a leader. Did you see that hoax shit with the police lined up and the woman, she had on the garb, the head scarf, and she was up talking about, yeah, cop, picking you up for what the fuck is she talking about? And made him feel guilty, and people in the comments about, she looked at him in his eyes and it pierced his soul. If you don't get that hoax ass propaganda shit, now people are seeing the sleeper cells of root, and now the Middle Easterners put themselves under Asian. So they're part of the Asian hate. They are protected. The fuck is this gold game? And some of y'all would say, no, the Middle East has always been under Asia. No, it wasn't. No, We need to wait a minute. So you telling me white folks are protected? Or they're under Asia? Everybody? Asia? It's such a sleeper cell that they're up there playing in Mexican faces. They're trying to say what they call Punjabis were in Mexico. No, they fucking wasn't. That AI is wicked. So now, and I'm just gonna, because I'm gonna be ignorant. Bangladesh, Pakistanians, whatever, all y'all gonna be under India with me. Now it's a movement. Indians are black. They're black. They're black. They're black. Indians are Mexicans. Indians cuts the fuck up with us. We're seeing more and more, and they're getting caught in the act of them cussing us the fuck out. And you can't be nice because they're not nice to you. And they throw work. I cracked up at this this flight attendant who said he used to work on, and I don't know if y'all seen it on was it the Indian Airlines, and how he said that they didn't understand how to use Western toilets, so they just boo-booed right on the fucking floor and they had to go and clean that shit up. But the problem is, in their country, that's what they do. They have whole bathrooms where they just piss and boo-boo right there. Do you understand? That's why I said, oh, in Philadelphia, they're trying to take over Philadelphia, so they're going to have feces and garbage. In San Francisco, that's what they did too with the feces. When feces was everywhere, I'm not going to lie. I thought it was quite interesting how you had people having diarrhea and then throw it in people's faces, or go against a building and shoot it out of their butts. When I seen that white woman get into a confrontation with another person in a car, and she turned around, pulled her pants down, and that diarrhea shot out like a fucking hellfire. I said, bitch. I was in my room and I kept smelling something and I said, oh wow, what is that smell? And my son was up in there eating masala. I said, that's feces. What the fuck you doing eating that? He was so angry with me. And he was like, Mom, I said, you do not eat that and put that in your body. I said, you do better eating mustard greens and collard greens and fucking oxtails than eating that vomit. That makes sense to the shrimps and grits, the shrimps and grits shit. Slop. I'm not being rude towards someone's culture, but it's certain things that shouldn't be in our bellies. And I don't trust it because I see what they do. He threw it away. He was very upset with me. Zoran Merrill, he's oddball. He's pandering to the Haitians. We don't know what the fuck is going on here. I guess we just supposed to just accept it, right? We're not asking questions of how in the hell these airports are always built on top of old black towns or neighborhoods. Airports. As we talk about the Independence Day, talking about Haitians, there's another energy I think with Haitians that we're missing. And you know, I believe that Jamaican tribe, Haitian tribes are already here in America. I believe that they took them, put them on a different island, mixed them all up with different cultures and ethnicities, and created hybrid Haitians. We understand that the energies that founded Chicago was Haitian, and I feel that's the true energy. Okay? And America know it, but I think these are all tribes that have been basically hybrid, just like they're making hybrid blueberries and shit like that now, and blackberries. In science, and they showed the shit. But I have some questions. I was doing some research and looking at how in the 1800s, the alleged first camera was 1818. But even in the artwork, I'm going to say with realism in America and Europe was very much pushed too. When we talk art, okay? However, some of you were like, no, the first camera was not 1818, but it was. 1818, realism art, impression was on the move, especially the 19th century. We talked this thing called antebellum and Civil War. When you look for artifacts for the Civil War, you can't find any. Well, I'm not saying you can't at all, but it's like it's not around. But in America, you could find a lot of Nazi artifacts. Nazi, but not the Civil War. When they talked about the Abe Lincoln, they took pictures of Abe Lincoln, but when it came about of his death and so on, we got a drawing in a painting. People don't know Lincoln even exists. They'll say he's black. They say he's this. They say that. Okay. When you start to look at the Civil War pictures, some of them, very few, it doesn't appear to be in the United States. What? Those people who you guys call slaves don't appear to be in the United States. Those look like Haitians. Those look different people, which will go into the Buffalo. Wait a minute, what the fuck is going on? I'm just looking at it because the architecture doesn't match the Civil War around the United States. The architecture in the United States was advanced. That's why you guys keep calling it that Tartarian shit. When you look at photos from the first photos, you will see that it is a very advanced society. I seen that energy of Flatbush, New York. In the late 1800s, which was an advanced society. It was already a society in movement. They had trains and structures. But showing people riding bikes and horse and what? And it was all black. When you look at energies in New York, Philadelphia, it was black. What is going on? Then over here, I was told to look up the Valley Forge. Valley Forge goes back to 1777, 1778. Is that when the white people, the actual takeover of the Black America and the indigenous people? Is that why George Washington was wearing black hair wig, the first lace front? Because you know white people were wearing lace fronts back then. And it was kinky, and their teeth. Because they took over government. Then you kind of want to go back to the Haitian Revolution, 1791 through 1804. Was that the Confederates and the... Because in reality, y'all understand the Confederates were the blacks fighting the Yankees. Was Nat Turner actually Haitian? What was all of this? They're mixing up wars. That's what I'm saying. And there's certain things that some of these wars were not fought on American soil. And they're changing time. And the artifacts that is present doesn't make sense. They have various locations in the United States where allegedly the Civil War people were buried. One of them is in Oakland. But you can easily box up people, put it on a boat, and bury people. They did it all the time. In California, there's a whole bunch of people from the East Coast and Ohio buried in California cemeteries. I don't believe the Civil War. I don't believe the artifacts and none of that shit. Something's up, and there's a lie, and they know it's a lie, and they're confusing us intentionally because they don't want us to know that they stole government and that they murdered and killed people like they're doing now, allegedly. And they replacing the energies with these Indians and people. They don't want us to know how they use the Chinese to infiltrate and be informants. There's things that they don't want us to know. They don't want us to know the truth. They don't want us to know that they keep not giving us our land and property, so they have you on the reparation rat race. When there is confusion, there's a lie. Is that part. We're looking at elevated societies, advanced societies before the 1800s. And then they tore them down and then called it the World Fair. There's something up. You have people like Shannon Sharp and David Banner talking about whips and how black people were whipped. We haven't proven that yet. That has not been proven. Because some of that energy look like body manipulation and tribal scars. Roots was your indication that this happened. Because other than that, all you seen was a sketch and a drawing of it, but you don't know this really happened. You have alleged accounts of people talking about slavery, but you don't know if that was AI then. You have a lot of energies during that period of witch deaths and witch torture, of witches, black ones, as they call it, scarification. When Roots came out, that's what they told us happened, right? On this land. They went from Africa to here. How about none of that is true? Because we understand that Alex Haley's story is a hack, and that Alex Haley stole the book and the story from an Italian man, because the Italians will write and do movies and scripts about the slave trade, and they always started from Africa into Haiti. A lot of their people and a lot of the story energies were Haitians. Just like when, what's that movie called that I would talk about a lot? That Goodbye Uncle Tom was Haitian. They were Haitians, and they've talked about that with Alex Haley. You could fight me all you want on it because it's everybody know it. He took that Italian man whole book. So when I'm listening to Shannon Sharp and David Banner, I'm like, what type of agenda are they pushing? And isn't David Banner from Mississippi somewhere? So wouldn't you actually be indigenous? Of course, our DNA and genetic energies is going to flow into Africa and everywhere because they mixed us all up. You see what I'm talking about? That's why America is on some bullshit. They have all this shit going and taking Ivy League energies and pushing it abroad. You have people with PhDs saying that their whole departments have been dismantled. But then wouldn't that go back into that 20, what's it called, 21 and Me or 23 and Me or whatever? All of those genetic ass energies that they was doing all that testing. Taking away textiles and all of that and pushing it abroad. America's always had textiles. America have always had metals, woods. Yes, wood is a textile when you thin it out, yes. Cotton, hemp, grains, using grains, animal, buffalo. We're still trying to figure out the rhinoceros and hippo energy that originate. I don't know which one originated here in America. How they used their husk, all type of shit. Wolves, coyotes, wolves, peacocks. They gave you the illusion of feathers, but peacocks here in America. We have birds that do not exist anymore that they used. What is it? Isn't it panthers that came out of Central America into the Americas? And people in Louisiana, or is it Mississippi? Is it panthers? And you have the elders talking about they're seeing those type of grown cats. Yeah. And I believe there's another one. And I'm swear it's the ooh. The leopard? Leopards and panthers that is seen in America or used to be seen. But they believe that they still kind of roam around. All of that is textiles. America used to be at the top. Then you had, of course, you had your Mexico and, and so on, in Europe. And then China entered the market. That's why we used to have sweatshops in America, industrial, but they didn't give it away. And now sweatshops are over there in Africa. You got the Chinese in France and India and all of them using the Africans. That's easy to smuggle shit. What happened to all these entertainers doing coffee and chocolate? So now you have India and Bangladesh and all that want to test Americans pimping when it comes up to chemistry and textiles and science. Y'all better peep what's going on as y'all sleeping. Because you already know a lot of these wars is always connected to some kind of drugs and textiles and shit like that. That shit that happened over there in Los Angeles with the lithium, that was a whole drug war. More than just takeover. What the fuck is really in that Altadena? Right? Because we would never connect astrology to science and Shiva. See, we have different energies when it comes up to science. And you have to come to the conclusion that we have different sectors. And we have to understand that tarot cards and this horoscope energy that they use, that's Indian. Black people and other cultures use almanac. Almanac or seasons or numbers and principles. The Bible is an almanac, a tarot, and more. You have this other system that's Indian based that's supposed to tap into your DNA. That's why they created natal charts and birth charts, because that energy is tapping into your DNA to control your movement, your life, your frequencies. See, that's above y'all pay grade. You can argue it all you want to. I don't give a fuck. But that's a different type of practice. So right here in the Western world and across the universal soul, we are still under the energies of the Indians because we're using their philosophies and principles to do Zodiac. Then some of you people be like, but the Greeks, this and that. But I took astronomy and I was wondering why the teacher said that there wasn't any energies in Africa that proves that astrology and astronomy started there. No, it did on a simple fact. And not only that, but also in the Americas. Then you also go into your Mexico and so on. It's just that everybody practices it differently and they have a different system. But this system taps into your DNA and genetics. Okay, so therefore they're fucking with you and reading your energies and then combining it with Greek entities. They're combining it with Egyptian entities. So they're up here saying you're Horus, you're this, you're Zeus, you're this, you're Cleopatra Jones. And technically they are putting you under a cult energy. Anytime that you get a natal chart, anytime that you get a birth chart, you're in a cult. When I see these white girls reading the fuck out of Beyonce, she's in the 5th house and this and that, she's in a cult. That's how they pull your energy in. Okay? So this is a different type of study. This energy taps back into that whole system of Chat GPT, AI, and what's it called? Alexis? Because these are predictions. They are prediction and they're changing the scope of who you are. When you're doing Chat GPT, it's correcting you. It's saying what you want to say, what they want it to say. They're changing your face to appease and for it to be pleasurable to other people. When you do your Chat GPT and you put your information in and you put your face in, you understand they're stealing the likes of you. That means if you put your face in there and somebody else is looking for something, you have similar features, then they would take your features and put it on top of that person. If they think your features are not too friendly, we're going to change your features a bit. If you're not smiling, we're going to change it a bit. Is what it still controls a computer is controlling your mechanism. It is correcting you. This is not Grammarly. This is something saying, I still don't like who you are. You have to be careful putting your shit on social media. One of my clients, and I could put it up. Just say it. I'll put it up. I'll have to ask her permission. My client, I think she went to a fashion show or something like that. I don't remember. And she had on a cowboy hat, nice belt, shoes. She had on a jean cowboy outfit. Neutral background, beige. She sees her whole fit on Beyonce. Even the background's the same. I said, what fucking stylist stole your whole shit and didn't pay you? I said, so you telling me Beyonce is the likes of you? This, when you go, it's the outfit she wearing, I think most recently to Pharrell's fashion show, Louis Vuitton. And then she's taking a pic and it's like a furry coat or whatever, and then the belt, it's a jean outfit with a cowboy hat. I told her, I said, yeah, she took it. Not her personally, but somebody that works under her. And pulled that shit and did a match. So if I were y'all, I would stop getting on social media giving these people artistic ideas in fashion. Because they're stealing your identity. You people are so silly. You guys getting on social media asking psychic questions. This is all connected back to astrology, horoscopes, and zodiac under the Indian culture. This is above y'all pay grade. I'm not about to get into that because we understand that it's 32 zodiacs. 32 zodiacs. And it is 360 demons that work under the 32 zodiacs. So you guys gonna continue to be under the Shiva effect. Talking about astrology and horoscope, you all know young Pharaoh up in that good jail, right? The receipts. And I'm a little iffy, like, how in the fuck is he in jail when I just seen him on TikTok? But you want to know the ass kicker of what they said about young Pharaoh on his mugshot? That he's 91 years old. I said, this nigga came from a planet far, far away. '91. Jimmy Swaggart died for the 5th time. They didn't got rid of Ann Wintour so they can govern Vogue and put Jeff Bezos' Tales from the Crypt Man on there. So we're going to have control for real media. We can't even have magazines right. We can't even have fashion right. Did you know that person that Jeff Bezos married signed a prenup? And if they get divorced, that person doesn't get anything. His wife got off, his first wife got off like a fat rat. She gave to HBCUs and eugenics. That person he married has children. She has previous children. Have you seen the way she used to look? She used to be pretty. But that's a hoe for you. She was married to another man and they were all friends, right? Al Sharpton is writing for DEI shit. Talking about the corporate entities didn't support Pride because they didn't fucked up Pride. They called it gay extremists. They said that Trump got rid of, what is it, the T and the Q? And returned it back to LGB. And you have lesbians and people advocating and saying they want to ban you trans extremists and you gay extremists because you have fucked up the game. And they're concerned that because of your behavior, they're going to overturn gay marriage. They say you have fucked up the game. And I say you can't pay attention to no trans because they got split personalities and need to be on lithium. When you have motherfuckers out here talking about that they're angry with non-binary and they're confused, you know they ain't shit. I'm D-trans, I'm trans. I'm D-trans, I'm trans. Split personality dissociative disorder, DID. Now you over here got the gay community all angry, saying y'all are extremists. I said I knew it was something wrong when women would talk about, assaults and sexual assaults that's happened to them, and more biological women, that all of a sudden gay men got on the phone saying, well, us too, me too, we're sexually assaulted by these horrifying misogynist men. But y'all prostitutes though. What doesn't make it even any better, but y'all prostitutes. You didn't sat up and intertwined your prostitution of being a trans man into biological women who are assaulted and abused. Two different things. They out here saying black men are misogynists. They're misogynistic. They are now. Because they like to get a lot of dick and suck a lot of dick. Now they are misogynists. Ladies, read these men pedicure. Not pedicure, but their pedigree. Shit, they be getting pedicures. Their pedigree. Look at their resume, understand their background before you get with them. They always talk about us, but look at their pedigree. Ask them questions. You will find, especially with black men, they have a whole lot of issues. They say, we have issues. They have a whole lot of issues. And then it can explain a lot of stuff. People that I get as clients and they have husbands or mates, don't tell them about me. Furthermore, I don't keep marriages together. That's not what I do. I don't do love work. If you're having trouble with your man, I'm going to tell you to cheat or get away from him. Then I'll do work to get you away from him. Because I feel if you're going through all that, fuck them. Unless we have a goal. You got some money, you got some shit that you need to get, or the person, okay, I fuck with that. You unhappy, I'm going to tell you to cheat. I'll help you to cheat. Oh my gosh, what? I don't give a fuck. Y'all don't even know how to date anymore. Etiquette. Certain works. Because men have you guys under ritual, under code. The 3-date rule. The 2-date rule. They want to kiss you and all that. Hit me up when you want some spiritual etiquette. Especially when it comes up to that. Because y'all been under the warlocks of these men and these Kevin Samuel niggas. You got to retrain these niggas. You got a vagina. Make it worth something. If these niggas want to stick their dicks all in under, let them do that. But your vagina's worth something because they devalue it. Talking about I come through a woman. I'm working with people right now under the energies of spiritual etiquette and dating. Y'all gonna get caught up under this new series. I think it's on Apple. I think it's called The Conjure Family. That fake ass family. The ranch people. Have y'all believing, look, we in this house and it's because we do work. Please. Y'all getting caught up with them high priestesses. Still showing you alekes and water and glasses and all that bullshit. All right. Real work is not televised. And gloating about it, it's not televised. Somebody was explaining to me that Queen of Fool is up in that Thailand. I said, so that's why all them black people going to Thailand. Are they under ritual? What's going on? I knew it was something to that. Them passport bros, I'm hearing now, are part of Occult and came into them damn countries with HIV. It's more men with HIV than what you think, and men that you wouldn't think that don't have HIV. And there's a lot of them conscious niggas that are healthy and vegans who have HIV. Don't get it fucked up. So as we out here have shows called The Conjure Family, you have Amish out here laughing and people laughing at you like Amish and these warlocks saying, don't come with that mumble jumble shit. They're laughing at you. They know what works. They know the old school magic works. They know it. You don't. That's why them Indians use hoodoo to take over New York. Just to say all of that, I was looking at that show, was it Family That Pray Together, or that movie Family That Pray Together, that Tyler Perry, they have that Sanaya Lathan and Taraji. Oh, and you know Taraji believes that she's the chosen one from her fake God, right? You heard her interview? Talking about she knows she chosen and favored and shit like that. I said, she's soul. She don't know any better. She anointed herself. That's why I said we need to put Peter back on the chopping block and say, down with Peter. And the world is Peter. We know Gentiles, nigga. So in this, the clips came up. Her husband on this movie, her husband, Sanaya Lathan, husband go to the bank to get some money out. The woman reveals, the bank teller reveals that there's another account with his wife's name on it. She tells the man the husband, the wife has a bank account with 200 grand. She can't do that. As a bank teller, if they have a joint account, then she has a separate account. That bank teller cannot divulge that information of the wife's personal account because he's not on it. So how does the bank teller tell him that information? Then he goes in, takes her money, uses it for his business. Do y'all remember that in that movie? No wonder she went the fuck off. I would too. Then she's a dumb bitch because she goes and she has a baby by the heir of this corporate entity, and you don't put that nigga on paperwork. You only got 200 grand in your bank account. Okay. Anyway, this is Weird Renegade Witches blog. Hit us up when you want some real motherfucking work done.